Welcome to Motherhood in Black, where we discuss all things parenthood from the unique Black perspective of a millennial mother, growing, learning, and unlearning on this journey of motherhood. All right, everybody, we are getting into our Momster section of the episode, and we have a special guest today, one of my high school friends, Natalie Johnson, who is actually becoming a lactation consultant. So she's going to be up here sharing her mom story and answering some questions that I got from some of my Facebook friends. And we're just going to talk about breastfeeding and normalizing it, especially in the Black community. So, Natalie, if you could just go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody, tell them who you are, what you're about.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm Natalie. All right, I'm gonna stop talking like that. Like you said, I'm becoming a lactation consultant, and I'm actually going to be specializing with women that are having trouble producing, and minority women, has an underrepresented community. There's not a lot of lactation consultants that actually specialize in issues that are prevalent in the Black community.
Okay. So you have 3 children of your own. So what has been your breastfeeding journey with them? And I know you have twins, so that's an interesting story because I don't even know what it's like to nurse 2 children at the same time. So I would love to hear that.
Yeah, I will try to keep it short because I talk forever. But Miles was my most problematic breastfeeding journey. I wasn't producing a lot. I actually have a condition in my left breast called IGT, which is insufficient granular tissue, which just means I don't have a whole lot of breast milk making material in my left boob.
Oh, wow.
Which is fine. My right compensates for it. But, like, you know how you'll have a bad day and your left will give you, like, a half ounce, but your right is, like, 3 or 4. That's my day, like, all the time. Like, it's not if I'm sick or it's all the time.
Wow.
So, with him, obviously, like, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm blessed to have sisters who have many, 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 many children. And they've always breastfed their children. It's just kind of what we do, and they've been very successful. They're all overproducers. It was never like in my head that I would have that kind of issue. So of course they're giving me all the standard advice when everything goes right, and you're a first-time mom, and you just got to push through. You know, those first couple weeks, just push through, and it's all that standard advice. And you know, it was from a good place, but I was getting frustrated because I was like, this is not a normal thing that's happening. There's something going on. And, you know, a lot of lactation consultants will tell you that that's impossible, that your body was meant to do this and that's impossible and that's it. And it's really disheartening when you can tell that something is up and nobody wants to listen. It took me actually going to my 5th lactation consultant. And she worked with my midwife, and this very, very hilarious older lady, Black lady named Sharon. It took me going to her for her to be like, oh no, baby, we need to get you a scan. This group right here is not the same as this one, and there's some markers for IGT going on. So once we did that, she did a scan or whatever, and they pretty much were like, yeah, definitely that's one here. Good news is your right boob can definitely compensate for it. You might need to supplement a little bit during growth spurts. Because my body definitely has a cap to how much it's willing to make for me. So not a problem. Miles nursed for about 10 and a half, 11 months, like consistently. After that, there was the whole, like, I'm trying to wean, and he's not trying to, and then he's trying to, and I'm not trying to for, like, a couple months. But it was pretty much, I usually say about 10 and a half, 11 months for Miles. And I was at work, so, and I'm a restaurant manager, so I work about 60 to 90 hours a week.
Oh, my God.
On bad weeks.
What?
Like this, yeah.
How did you nurse? Oh, my gosh.
I stepped
What?
off the floor every 2 hours to pump, and my husband would bring him to me. But that's just during our busy times, which are like summers and Christmas. During slower times, I work between like 50 and 65. So I just,
Girl.
I really got comfortable with the fact that I was going to be the kind of mom that only slept for 4 hours max a night. And so far, that's just my life.
Yeah, I
And I
just read
keep
a
it down.
Facebook status that I posted after I had Harper a couple of years ago, and I was like, I accept the fact that I'm not going to get adequate sleep, and as long as I'm here for Harper, I'm good.
Exactly, though. Like, you just got to do what you got to do, and
Yeah.
there's no one in the world better at doing that than a mom, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with the girls, they were less complicated, but still problematic because when you have one trick boob that isn't going to produce enough,
Yes, trick boob.
Exactly, my little guy over here.
It's like Nemo's fin, his little small fin.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Exactly. But when you have that with two babies, one of them is obviously going to get frustrated. And the other issue is my right boob has a fast letdown. So they were both just mad at all times because one of them was getting like squirted in the mouth with milk and the other one was barely getting anything. So I probably tandem nursed them 5 times, maybe. And then we just got to the point where it was like, okay, I'm going to have to do one-on-one or pump. And, I should have mentioned this. Memphis went to the NICU for 9 hours. So they gave her a bottle in the NICU against my wishes. And so she always, I flipped out, but she always kind of had issues latching. She was never really a great nurser at all.
Girl. What? Hold on. Wait.
Yeah.
No.
I almost killed somebody.
Wow.
Like
Girl.
legitimately have been pumping this colostrum for you to give her. And they were
and then you give her a bottle.
Yeah. And these are full term twins that are, a standard weight. They were 6.5 pounds. Like these are not small babies. These are not preemies that needed something. It was ridiculous. And then the nurse tried to convince me that I would never be able to get rid of their jaundice with breast milk, which is not true, at all. She was crazy. But anyway, the point of all that is.
We digress.
So, Memphis had some trouble nursing, but she was able to figure it out after a couple of months. She was able to get her latch down, and then we had more success. By that time, I was almost exclusively pumping for her and nursing Mariah to keep a good supply. Memphis was the one that kind of like never really had a great breastfeeding relationship with me, which is crazy because she's my favorite. But like, don't tell my kids that, but like, she's definitely my favorite. Which is just proof that there's other ways to bond with your baby. Just for discouraged mothers, there's other ways to bond. It's not the world, but
we all have favorites. Everybody has favorites. Everybody has favorites.
She's my homie for sure. She's clingy. I love it. But Mariah essentially is the most stubborn, independent child in the world. And she's very aggressive when she nurses. So she's like, pretty much like, ripping my shirt off in public. That's that kid. So she kind of got to the point where she would not nurse if she wasn't like in a carrier because she didn't want to sit still to nurse.
Oh, wow.
She wanted to constantly be moving. So she just had issues if we weren't constantly moving. So eventually I had to just nurse her in Otula at all times. And once that got to be, obviously, that's not going to work for your entire life. So once that happened, I exclusively pumped for them with very, very few nursing sessions from the time they were like 6 months until they self-weaned at, I want to say, 13 months.
I don't know that life. I wish Harper self-weaned.
Girl, them babies were dumb. They probably got sick of my trick move and just said whatever. They were dumb.
Like, I had to, stop her from breastfeeding. Like, I went to Mexico in October, right before she turned 2. So she didn't nurse for, a whole week. And when I came back,
I put Band-Aids on my nipples and just
Yes,
was like,
girl.
I was like, no, Harper, we're done. And just like, hallelujah. At 2 years. So, yeah. I
Yeah,
wish I
girl.
had,
You gotta do
I
what you gotta do.
wish. So I have some questions for you since you're like the professional on this topic. So I solicited some questions from my Facebook audience. So this is the Momsters section of the episode. So I guess you and I can answer these questions. You know, I have some experience breastfeeding, just a little bit, but you know, you're more of the professional. So this is a question from a mom who was actually breastfeeding, and she was just asking a question that she had before she actually started. So she was saying, how long should I breastfeed? So is there a time limit, a suggested time frame? Natalie, what's your
Yeah,
answer to that?
absolutely. If you listen to the experts in the World Health Organization, they're going to tell you that you should breastfeed for a minimum of a year, but that 2 years is preferred. And the trouble with that is that they're basing that off the entire world, which includes third world countries. I hate that term, but it includes improvisations where you do have to breastfeed longer because your choice of food is very slim.
Right.
So in order to maintain nutrition for your child, you have to breastfeed. They don't take into account the differences in countries when they give that standard. So if you listen to the American Academy of Pediatrics, I always say that name wrong, but if you listen to them, they say 12 months. And it's a pretty firm 12 months at least. I say you breastfeed for as long as you and your baby want to breastfeed.
Right. Same.
Even if that's 3 years, even if that's 4 years. I mean, if y'all are cool with breastfeeding a 5, 6-year-old, that's on you.
Right.
I personally have a 4-year-old, and I would not let him anywhere near me at all. He is a monster.
People used to always ask me when I was still nursing, like, when are you going to stop? And I'm like, at least before she goes to kindergarten. Because, like, Harper just never seemed like she wanted to stop at all. So for me, my goal was to exclusively breastfeed for 6 months, then introduce some food. And then whenever she decided to stop, or I was like, we're done. But like you said, whatever's comfortable with you. But, you know, we're in this generation now with social media, and people are like shaming moms for like breastfeeding, stopping early or not long enough. And I'm just like, like people used to say, and I even used to say this, like, breast is best, but like literally fed is best.
Exactly.
Right. That is the most important thing. All right, another question is, I had this question too before I started nursing. When is it okay to pump? Like, I would read stuff and people would say, you know, don't pump until this time, or you shouldn't pump until you've established your supply. So what is your answer to that, Natalie?
The answer is that it is individual for every mom. It depends on what your breastfeeding goals are, what your work goals are, what your work commitments are. If you're someone like me where your entire business is pretty much put on hold and they're just maintaining while you're on maternity leave, and you have to get back in order to make this building run, so you're only taking 6 to 10 weeks off instead of, you know, some people take 6 months to a year, however.
Right.
If you're someone like that, or if you're someone like my sister who only took 2 weeks off because she had to get back to that money. She's a single mom of 6. She was like, hey, I'm good. I've done this. She has perfectly normal, quick vaginal deliveries and is up the next day doing everything she was doing before, running after them kids. So is she crazy? Absolutely. But she took a 2-week maternity leave and was back, and everything was fine. So it depends on your goals. I would say there is no need to pump in the hospital at all. You're not going to do anything to bring your milk in faster. It's not going to do anything for you. You're going to get colostrum, which is great if you want to try to, like, syringe it. But as someone who syringed colostrum, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So it's better to put it directly in the baby's mouth. When you're in the hospital, another reason to avoid pumping is because you want to give the lactation consultants enough time with you and your baby to view what is going on. They need to catch every single latch. And they have so many patients in the hospital that they're going to be, wandering from place to place. So make sure that you get them every time your baby's about to latch on, which is going to be a lot of time in that first couple days. So that's another reason. But basically why people tell you not to pump right away is because they're saying that you'll get an oversupply, because you're going to tell your body that it needs more milk than it does, and then it's going to produce more milk than it needs. And there's a whole slew of issues that comes along with being an overproducer that are painful, and it sucks. But your body is going to self-regulate anyways. So do whatever you got to do. You're not going to, in the first week, build up such a huge supply that you never have to pump again. So it's better just to give that straight to baby.
Yeah. I started pumping as soon as we got home from the hospital, or it was after we took Harper to her first appointment, because I told the pediatrician that I was going to work. I planned to take 6 weeks, but I only took 4 because, like your sister, I had to get back to that money and rent was due. And I was not getting paid on maternity leave, but that's a whole nother episode, so we're not going to get into that. But I started pumping like as soon as probably like, I guess a week after we got home, and I think I was probably like one step away from being an overproducer. Like the freezer was full. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. The first few months, that milk supply is crazy.
I know. I remember one morning I pumped 20 ounces before going to work.
Yes, girl.
I had to change the bottles on the pump. I was like, oh, it's still coming out. Like, what in the world? I was like, oh, let me pause this and switch the bottles. Yeah, craziness.
That's awesome.
All right, so here's a question from a non-parent. How do I have to adjust my diet before I decide to breastfeed?
It also depends on your goals. With everything in breastfeeding, it's very individual. The best way to say it is the better quality food and beverage that you put into your body, the better you're going to feel energy-wise, which means that you're going to be able to parent more efficiently and breastfeed more efficiently because of that. But honestly, at the end of the day, the quality of your breast milk isn't going to drastically change that much based on whether you ate McDonald's or a 5-course meal prepared by a private chef. It's not going to change that much. Make sure you're getting your vitamins in still taking your prenatal and getting as much nutrition as possible. That's more important than what you're actually eating. Because your breast milk your body is going to pull every single nutrient, everything, and it's going to give it to baby. And it's going to take it away from you and give it to baby. And so you're going to suffer if you're not getting proper nutrition. But technically, you don't have to change a single thing about your diet, unless the baby obviously has allergies or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and breastfeeding makes you hungry. Like, oh my goodness. I was like, why am I hungry again? I want to eat. I need food. And I knew somebody who had to take out dairy out of her diet because she was nursing and her child was lactose intolerant. I was like, oh my God, I could not imagine. Like, I don't know what I would do in that situation. Like, if my child had an allergy, like, would I just stop? Like, would I stop breastfeeding or would I actually change my diet? That's like a conundrum for me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I actually know someone who had dairy intolerance, dairy, soy, and eggs. She can't eat anything.
Dang.
All right. Man.
All right, another question. What are some situations that make a mother unable to breastfeed? And if a mother cannot breastfeed, are there other alternatives that can... hold on, let me rewind. Let me put my glasses on. I can't see this question. Okay, here we go. What are some situations that make a mother unable to breastfeed? And if a mother cannot breastfeed, are there other alternatives that they can seek out besides formula, or is that the automatic go-to?
There are some, like I said, IGT would be one of them. If it's sufficient enough, if you have, no tissue in your breast that are able to produce milk, then that would be one. Sometimes diabetes can have an effect because insulin resistance can affect your breast milk supply. Little things like that. Most of them are fixable. It's going to take time, and it might not be fixed for that baby. Like insulin resistance is something that you can lose weight, or you can get on a good program for diabetes management, and maybe the next kid you'll have better luck with breastfeeding. But in the meantime, I think when people are really dying to breastfeed, it's either going to be nutrition based or bonding. So depending on which one is your primary, there's a lot of things you can do. The most accessible one is going to be to supplement at the breast, which means to use this little catheter-like tube, and you basically tape it on the side of your nipple. So when the baby goes to latch, they take your nipple in with the catheter. And then you have like a little bag that hangs around your neck that has either the breast milk or the formula in it. And the baby is basically getting whatever out of you, but they're also taking in a supplement. But it's at the same speed that they would for nursing, so they don't have a preference to a bottle at that point. If it is about bonding versus nutrition, then the easiest way to do that is to establish a good bonding relationship that doesn't really have to be about breastfeeding. You can do skin to skin with a bottle. Look in your baby's eyes. I did that with members all the time because I was like, girl, you don't want this and I don't want to do this, so go ahead, take this bottle. And you just look at each other, take some time. There are a bunch of milk banks. There's Milk for Humans, I think there's one. I have a million listed, but you can Google it. And there are a bunch of different sources for milk donations. Another way is to ask a friend who is breastfeeding their child if they have extra breast milk. I think people, especially in minority communities, get really stuck in their head that's like unacceptable, or it's not okay. Which I think, if you were to ask me in my very, very few psychology classes in college, I think that might be a drawback or a throwback from slavery and having to nurse our master's children.
Right. Yeah.
And it's now we have this automatic oh no, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
It's ingrained in our head that it's gross, but
and because honestly, it's like a bodily fluid too. I think people think that's kind of.
But honestly, breast milk is not the same as blood or anything like that. It's a very sterile thing. It comes straight from the boob to the baby, or it goes straight into the bag. It's very sterile. It's self-filled. It is an amazing fluid that cleans itself. If you breast milk can cure pink eye, and there's so many amazing qualities of it. It heals. So I personally got supplements from my sister, who had a baby that's a year older than my girls, but she's a crazy overproducer. So during growth spurts, when my left boob couldn't keep up, I had milk from my sister.
Oh, that's awesome.
Some people will even nurse a family member's baby, which I would do it. They wouldn't want this tricky left boob either. But a lot of people wouldn't, and I totally understand. I am probably just a crazy hippie at this point. And I'm just oh my God, I love you. The babies get the boobs. But to answer the question, yes, there are a million avenues out there, and not all of them are formula. If you can, I don't even say if you want to, if you can get your mind around the only way to bond with my baby is breastfeeding, then you can save yourself a lot of heartache. If you do have a condition that's going to make it unable for you to breastfeed, you can save yourself some heartache by doing formula in a bottle and making that quality time, or doing the catheter method of feeding the baby, which is called, my head is blank. It's called something. A tube. Something tube. I don't know. Okay.
Oh God.
Yeah.
She's a lactation consultant in training. She's getting there.
In training, y'all. And I only sleep 4 hours a night in case y'all
Right. Right. And when you're pregnant, your brain shrinks in size and it takes a while for it to grow back to its full size. So, it's all that, mommy brain, all that stuff.
Yeah, mom brain to the max. And we just bought a house, so I've been painting and
oh gosh,
changing toilets and everything else.
Ooh. Yeah, as far as like the alternatives go for breastfeeding, like a lot of people think like formula is automatic, but there was a time I guess I was an overproducer. I was on the low ranks of an overproducer, but my sister-in-law, I had left some of my milk at my dad's house because I just didn't have any room to take it home. And we had our babies like 2 months apart, and she actually drank all the milk, or she didn't drink it, but my nephew drank all the milk that I had there. So, I'm willing to share when I have breast milk. So I just think that's awesome.
I think it's a great gift.
We're going to have one more question. This is the last one. It's probably like one of the hot topic questions as far as breastfeeding goes. How do I address children that watch when I openly breastfeed? And also I want to add in there, like, how do you address like adults or anybody that may have an issue with you openly breastfeeding? I'll let you go first. I have my opinion on this, but let's hear what you have to
quick
say.
Second. It's called an SNS, a supplemental nursing system, and I just remembered.
Oh.
But
see, it just took some time. Yeah. SNS, supplemental nursing system. Gotcha.
Yes. Okay, so how openly breastfeeding? I mean, I think it's really individual, but for starters, having the confidence to know that you have a legal right to breastfeed your baby openly as you want to, wherever in every state in this country. Like, I have the confidence that a lot of new mothers don't have, and know that there's nothing anyone can do to stop you in a public space. Right. If you go into a privately owned venue, they can ask you to cover up. So just knowing that there is a difference between public spaces and privately owned venues, they cannot kick you out. They can't get you arrested. There's nothing like that. But you're going to be unsuccessful in a lawsuit for trying to sue a privately owned organization for asking you to cover up. Gotcha. So don't waste your time on it. But all that being said, I have always been the kind of person that does not cover because my babies don't like to be covered. So I kind of just say, hey, whip them out and feed them wherever. And if an adult is looking at me, I'm going to give you twice of direct eye contact with me to look away. And if you don't, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to squirt you in the eye with my milk if you don't stop listening. Like, if you have a question, come ask me a question. Right. I am no problem answering questions at all. I used to nurse my babies at the table at work and talk to employees. Like, I have no problem nursing. It's not sexual, so I think if you're sexualizing it, you have some other issues that you need to take care of. That's the main. Like, our country, the United States, they sexualize everything. Like, if a little kid has on a bikini, like, that's the issue. Like, why are you sexualizing a 2-year-old in a bathing suit? Right. Anywho, that's a whole nother episode. But for me, like, for me, when it comes to breastfeeding openly, like, I never had a problem. I may have covered Harper up like a few times. Like, if my top required me to lift up and my stomach was out and I wasn't comfortable with that, then I would like cover, but Harper would always pull it off. So I've nursed everywhere, like in the car, at a restaurant, I think on an airplane, in an airport, outside at a park, like, it just, at a basketball game. It doesn't bother me. The only thing that would make me feel uncomfortable is that other people put their uncomfortability on me. Like, I could feel them like being uncomfortable. And I just, and I'm just like, y'all, I'm just feeding my baby. I'm not just walking around with my nipples out. And even if I was, like, this is my house, this is my body, I could do that. But like, I was always at the ready. Like, if somebody was looking at me, I was ready to fight them. Like, I wanted somebody to say something to me so I could fight them. Now, with a kid looking at me, I don't think I ever had. I think my niece, she was like interested. Like, she even tried to breastfeed Harper one time,
It was funny. I think she tried to breastfeed her brother, but that's what she saw. That's what she's exposed to. Like, but if a kid,
absolutely, my son does that all the time. He'll
yeah.
Well, when I was nursing, he would try to like put his face in there.
Yeah, and I just feel like if a child is watching you, they don't really understand. They're not sexualizing your body. They're just like, ooh, what's going on? What are you doing? And I think I've had kids look at me before, nursing. I say, oh, I'm just feeding my baby. She's drinking milk, taking care of my baby. That's it.
Exactly.
Now adults, they can get these hands or this titty
right.
milk, whichever one it
right.
is.
Yeah. I think I've only had one person in 4.5 years of being a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I've had one person say something to me about nursing, and I wasn't even nursing at the time, which was the crazy part. I had one of the girls in like their one of their racks, and I was walking around in Walmart, which was my first mistake. You never go to Walmart. You go to Target. I should have known.
Don't do that to Walmart. Don't do that to Walmart.
Man, them people, especially out here in the country, girl. But I was walking around Walmart, and this lady was like, do you have to do that here? And I was like, no. I think my first response was, breathe? What are we talking about? And she was like, I mean, your baby is eating where people can see. And I was like, okay, first of all, no, she's not. Second of all, fuck you. I just like walked away. Because I was so shocked I couldn't think of a better response. And
I mean, what else can you say at that point? She's being an a-hole.
She's a 10 words lady, and she was sitting there eating McDonald's too. That's so bad. Like, you're eating.
Right. I wanted people to challenge me. They just never did, which I'm grateful for. I never had to deal with that. But I low-key wanted that confrontation so I could just drop all this knowledge on them and just shut them down. Like, that was my dream.
Right.
Whew. All right, we got through our momsters. Thank you to everybody that submitted questions. Last section, we've been laughing the whole time. So this last segment of the show is called Parenting Fails and Toddler Tales, or PFTT. So I'm going to ask Natalie to share a story in relation to parenting fails and or toddler tales. So I know you have 3 kids. You might have to narrow it down. So I'm going to give you time to think while I share my story.
Okay.
So Harper was walking, and she was at the walking stages, and I was in the kitchen cooking, and her dad was on the couch, and they were playing this little game with each other, and like she was wiping her finger on him, and she would run away and laugh, and he would laugh with her. And so they were doing this for about a couple minutes, and then she came into the kitchen and did the same thing to me, so I was joking with her. And then the last time she did it to her dad, he was like, Harper, what does that smell? Did you poop? And come to find out, Harper had to stick her finger in her diaper and wiping it. He was so mad. And she I cloth diaper, so there's a little bit of space in between there. So, oh my God. Yeah. And I was so weak. It was so funny. Oh gosh. I'm glad I made it through that story. That was hilarious. All right, Natalie, give us one.
Lord. Well, speaking of cloth diapering, so we cloth diaper too, all of the kids. But with Miles, obviously, I was a first-time parent, and no one in my family had cloth diapered with like modern diapers. Mm-hmm. So me and Bum Genius just got to know each other on our own. And I didn't really love YouTube in the same way that I do now, so I didn't think to look on YouTube.
Right.
So he was like 6 months old, and he had just like transitioned up in his rise snap. Mm-hmm. So like he was, getting bigger and everything. And
right.
So I'm sitting there, like I had changed his diaper, and I remember I was really sick. And I kept like coughing. So one time I was coughing, and I thought I was going to throw up. And so I went to like hand him to my husband because I thought I was about to throw up. Mm-hmm. And he like takes him, and he's like, oh my God. And he like drops him down onto the bed, and he's a 6-month-old, so don't freak
right.
out. He's 30. He drops him in the bed, and he just has poop all over him and like everywhere. And Miles had like tugged his, because I didn't, I guess, like snap his diaper enough. So he had like ripped his diaper off and had poop all over himself in his hands. He was like cupping it and playing with it. And Daniel had it all over him. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't notice. But like before, when I was coughing, I noticed that Miles was like moving a lot. And I just thought he was being weird, but he had poop everywhere.
Oh God.
And then with the girls, Miles was potty training when the girls came along. So one time, Miles like pooped on himself, but it was like a really not, like, he needed to drink some water. It was not a good poop at all. It was hard as hell. And, obviously when you're potty training a kid, like, you're on hyper alert for these poop accidents all the time.
Yes.
So I smelled poop, automatically was like, where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? I could not find this poop anywhere.
No.
Like, I'm looking all over the room. I'm like, where is this poop? Where is this poop? So I turned around, and Memphis had this piece of poop in her hand. And she was about to put that shit in her mouth. And I was like, oh my God!
No.
And I dropped it out of her hand. And I was like, no, forever unclean.
No.
I had to sanitize the hell out of them children.
Oh
I was
my
like, I
God.
gotta burn everything. Oh my God. If my baby had
I'm in tears.
brother's poop.
Oh God, I'm in tears. They would have called Child Protective Services on you, girl.
Oh my God, yeah. Like, they for sure have been like, she got them over there eating each other's poop. This lady's crazy.
Oh God. Oh gosh. This is about to be my favorite segment of this show. Like, I feel like this just makes parenting real and just lets everybody know, like, life happens, stuff goes wrong, but you move on and your kids still love you even the more. Oh my gosh. I'm in tears. Oh my God. Whew, let me get it together. Oh, Natalie, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on this show and sharing your knowledge with us and your story. I appreciate all your information. Oh gosh, I have to bring you back for something else. Like, that was just so hilarious.
We talk about morality rate and Black moms. That's the next one.
Hey, I think I do have an episode coming up about that. I will definitely give you a call.